Netflix really shifted into a higher gear this time, because for One Piece Season 2, the guesswork era is over. We now have trailers shared directly by Netflix, official statements, and messages from Oda. That means what we're talking about is no longer rumor, it's solid information. The Straw Hat crew finally enters the Grand Line, and that means the scale of the series is about to change completely. The East-Blue fights were just the beginning. The Grand Line is a whole different league. This season's atmosphere will be more dangerous, bigger, and way more surprising. Guys, before we get into the details, I need to say something small but important. Lately, we've been having really serious issues with the YouTube algorithm. Our videos aren't getting recommended like they used to, and that causes the content to reach fewer people. You are my Straw Hat crew, and you are my biggest support on this journey. If you like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. We can push it to more people. If you're ready, let's get into the details. Officially, we know this. Season 2 is called One Piece Into the Grand Line, and the release date is the 10th of March 2026. So the countdown has officially started, and that date makes the season feel truly close. And it's not just the date, even the title tells us what we're about to watch. Entering the Grand Line, meaning the real beginning of the adventure. From this point on, the journey will be more ruthless, the enemies will be more organized, and the missions will be more deadly. Netflix's message is clear: tougher rivals and more dangerous missions. This is the season where the Straw Hats' dreams really start getting tested. The route for this season is also pretty much locked in now. The crew goes to Loguetown, meaning they step into the Grand Line by passing through the place where the pirate era began and where Roger was executed. Then you've got Reverse Mountain, a challenge that alone screams there are no jokes in this sea. On top of that, stops like Whisky Peak are coming. Places that look friendly on the outside but hide a completely different kind of trial on the inside. On the Little Garden side, things go fully insane, because giants, dinosaurs, and wild nature are waiting for us. And as the final stop, it's confirmed that Drum Island is in this season too. An ice-cold kingdom, a castle on the peak, and a story filled with medical miracles. In short, every stop feels like a doorway into a new world. But the real difference this season isn't just the locations. The type of enemies they face changes too. This time, the crew runs into an organization that operates like assassins, Baroque Works, and that's way more dangerous than the classic pirate versus pirate clash. Because these people plan, set traps, and target not just Luffy, but the weaker links in the crew. The trailers make the tone clear. You might think you're unstoppable, but your friends aren't made of rubber. That line lands like a code for the entire season, because Luffy might be strong, but the crew can break. The threat in the Grand Line is not something you solve with one punch. It requires brains, unity, and endurance. And of course, we've reached the character who will be the heart of this season, Tony Chopper. Based on the details Netflix shared, Chopper is not just someone new joining the crew, he's also one of the emotional centers of the season. And they've clearly done massive global prep for Chopper. With voice casts across different languages, it's obvious they're positioning him like a worldwide face. That shows Netflix is investing in Chopper not only inside the story, but also in marketing and building an audience bond. We also know Chopper isn't just being voiced. There's serious work on the performance side too. And that matters, so his expressions and emotions don't feel fake. The Drum Island story already carries heavy emotion on its own, and Chopper will be the main figure bringing that emotion to the screen. So yes, there's action, danger, giants, dinosaurs, but the thing that might truly hook viewers this season could be Chopper's story. On the Baroque Works side, the who is in and who is not part is also clear now, and it pushes the threat level of the season straight up. Miss All Sunday, Miss Wednesday, Mr. 3, Mr. 5, Miss Valentine, Mr. 9, and Miss Golden Week will show up this season. That means the story is already laying the foundation stones for the Alabasta journey. The point of these characters isn't just that they're strong, it's that they pressure the crew and turn everything into a game. For the first time, the Straw Hats will feel like they're being hunted by a truly organized structure. That creates a dynamic that keeps tension alive nonstop. A trap around every corner, a plan behind every smile. In short, this season will deliver the We Entered the Grand Line feeling not only through scenery, but through enemy psychology too. Especially the way Miss All Sunday speaks in the trailers sums up the tone perfectly. She challenges Luffy directly, but she redirects the real threat away from Luffy himself and toward his crew. Your friends aren't made of rubber. That line feels like a manifesto for how power alone is not enough in the Grand Line. Luffy might be physically durable, but Nami, Usopp, or Sanji are not on the same level of untouchable, so when enemies start playing strategy, everything changes. In this season, Luffy's leadership won't be just charging forward, it will be making the right decisions to protect his friends. That's exactly why Baroque Works adds a special tension to the story. It feels like a season of plans, not just punches. And that tension will show up in a different form on every island. One of the first big shocks of the Grand Line will likely be Reverse Mountain and the Laboon part. because the details Netflix shared clearly show we're going all the way to inside the whale. This isn't just a cool adventure scene. It's both a huge set and effects showcase visually and a chance to build a strong emotional story. Meeting a massive creature like Laboon will smack the Straw Hats in the face with the truth of how huge the world really is. And entering the Grand Line with something that crazy instantly gives the season a wild tempo. Even at the front door, you're already saying the rules are different here. If these scenes are handled well, they have a very high chance of becoming one of the iconic moments viewers remember. Because the magic of One Piece is exactly this, taking things that look massive and absurd and turning them into a story that hits your heart. Little Garden will be the section that delivers the bigger scale promise the most clearly. Giants, dinosaurs, a prehistoric island. Put those three together and expectations naturally rise. Because if this arc is done right, it can be the moment live action says, we are a big production now. The existence of giant warriors expands the mythology of the One Piece universe. It's not just the Straw Hats growing, the world itself grows. The dinosaurs add chaos and fun. All of a sudden, adventure, survival in the wild, and comedy can melt into the same pot. And the most critical thing here is this. Little Garden is not just a stop in the story, it's also a test of being a crew and stubbornly staying on your feet. So character writing will matter here just as much as the effects. When we reach Drum Island, the atmosphere hardens and the story lands in a darker, more dramatic place. A winter island, constant snow, a castle up on the peak. That visual language alone gives you the feeling that good things don't happen here. Drum Kingdom is not just where Chopper appears, it's also where the Straw Hats go through a real test of empathy and sacrifice. Here, themes like medicine, loneliness, being cast out, and belonging can hit extremely hard. Chopper's story will do much more than add new power to the crew. It will add a new piece to the crew's heart. If Netflix handles this arc with the right balance, the most talked about moments of the season might not be only action, but also Chopper's emotional breaking points. At this point, we can say this very clearly. The biggest goal of Season 2 is to make the audience feel we've entered the real size of the One Piece universe. You start with a historical stop like Loguetown, you step into the Grand Line through an unbelievable entry like Reverse Mountain and Laboon, then Whisky Peak breaks your sense of trust, Little Garden expands the universe, and Drum Island hits you with an emotional punch. Even that route alone feels like a complete story flow. Every episode carries a different flavor and a different danger. Netflix highlighting these stops so strongly is not random. The tempo of the season is not, let's hang around on an island, it's, we are being tested on every island. If viewers feel like the level is rising every episode, the season's pull and binge power will multiply. So this season isn't just a follow-up season, it's the season where the series scales up and becomes a lasting franchise.
What's interesting about Baroque Works is not only that the organization appears, but that it will be felt constantly in the background too.
Because when these names are on the board, it starts to feel like they have eyes in every corner of the Grand Line. You go to one island, and an agent shows up.
On the next island, another one. Then suddenly, you realize you've been part of a bigger plan the whole time.
That kind of structure keeps the audience alive with the feeling of, okay, what happens now? And a threat like this forces the Straw Hats to update themselves. They'll be more careful, more strategic, sometimes they'll even learn to pull back. And that change opens up amazing space for character development. In short, Baroque Works isn't just fight scenes, it's the tension engine of the season. I want to circle back to Chopper again, because it's very obvious he's going to be one of the emotional centers of this season. Netflix pushing Chopper with a strong global launch shows they didn't choose him just because he's cute, but because he's a figure who can carry the story. Chopper means humor, heartbreak, and hope, all at the same time. And it's not only voice work here. We need to read his emotion from his face, and that's why they're putting serious effort into performance too. This is them trying to handle one of live action's biggest risks the right way, making a CGI character feel real. If they pull it off, Chopper becomes the symbol of the season. If they don't, he becomes the most debated topic. But right now, the official statements suggest they're very confident about it. Oda's approach to this season also matters, because the audience, especially anime and manga fans, is obsessed with one question. Are you keeping the soul? Oda, staying close to the project, and saying the new season will be more surprising and more challenging, increases trust on the fan side. Because that gives this message, yes, the season will be bigger, but it won't grow out of control. Him calling the Grand Line the toughest season, and specifically highlighting things like giants and bounty hunters, tells us something too. This season is not only expanding the world, it's starting to grow the lore as well. So it's not just adventure. The rules of the One Piece world, the balance of power, and the threat map will be drawn more clearly. That connects viewers to a deeper universe and boosts the urge to watch one more episode. And if you ask me, the hidden power of this season will be showing the Straw Hats bond with each other much more clearly. Because the Grand Line is exhausting, not only because of enemy strength, but because of the psychology of the journey. Nami's brains and calmness, Usopp facing his fear, Sanji's pride, Zoro's discipline. Each of them will be tested. And for the first time, Luffy will understand that the "I'm here, that's enough" mode doesn't work, because his crew's fragility will force him to become a real leader. That kind of storytelling strengthens the feeling of "I love this crew" in the audience. And what makes people watch isn't only fights, it's this crew having each other's backs. If Season 2 boosts that, people will talk not only about big moments, but also small looks and sacrifices. When you look at the big picture, the goal of Season 2 is very clear: to truly scale up One Piece. We're leaving behind the simpler pirate stories of East Blue and stepping into the insane and dangerous world of the Grand Line. Giants, dinosaurs, a massive whale, and an organized crime group all exist in the same season. That means the bar will rise both visually and in terms of story. Netflix's message is straightforward. This season will be bigger, bolder, and riskier. So, Season 2 feels like the real test of the series. I think one of the most critical points of this season will be emotional balance. Because what makes One Piece special isn't only big wars, it's moments that touch the characters' hearts. That's why Chopper's story is in a key position. Drum Island is different, both in atmosphere and in tone. It carries a much heavier emotional weight. If they build that emotion the right way, the most talked about moments of the season might not be only action, but also Chopper's breaking and acceptance scenes. Viewers love big effects, but what they truly bond with is always the character. Baroque Works will likely keep the season's tension alive nonstop, because this organization moves not only with power, but with planning. For the first time, the Straw Hats will face a threat this systematic. That puts Luffy's leadership into a more serious test. In the Grand Line, being brave won't be enough, you'll need to make the right calls. And that shift will define the season's character development. When we gather everything we officially know, the result is this. There is a clear date, a clear route, and a clear threat. We will watch a story that starts at Loguetown and stretches to Drum Island. The scale will grow with giants and dinosaurs, the emotional side will strengthen with Chopper, and the tension will rise with Baroque Works. So Season 2 could be the season where the series levels up in production, story, and character. When the 10th of March 2026 arrives, a new page will open for the One Piece live-action series. Now, what I really want to know is this. Which moment do you want to see the most? The Laboon scene, the giant battles on Little Garden, or Chopper's Drum Island story? Write it in the comments and let's talk. And if you enjoy detailed One Piece videos built on official information like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because the Grand Line journey is only just beginning.